Hello everyone, and welcome to Mr. Conway's video tutorial on how to draw one-point perspective. Today I'm going to show you how to draw one-point perspective. And what we see here is a student illustration showing one-point perspective of a city. And what we see here, let me point out a couple of things. We can see how the road divider, it starts out kind of wider on the bottom, but as it goes towards the distance, it gets smaller. We can see how in this illustration, the student, and again, this is a student illustration, the lines on the side of the building facing the street, each line is drawn towards the vanishing point to create that illusion of depth. We can see on the parts of the building that are facing towards the viewer, the lines are horizontal and vertical only, but as we turn the corner, all of those lines merge towards the vanishing point. Allow me to point out that the brakes on the sidewalk, they're horizontal, and even the side of the curb, those lines are vertical. But in the end, to create that illusion of distance, these buildings get progressively smaller as they merge towards the vanishing point to create that illusion of distance. Now, what we see here in this illustration, we can see that there are things included in the city so that it becomes a storytelling device. What we want to be able to show are the things that you can come up with, so this is your opportunity to use your own imagination. You're also going to need to use color pencil for this project to color it in. Now, to get started, we're going to have our paper in a landscape orientation, which means that the paper is wider than it is tall. And what I want you to do is to find the middle of the paper and place your ruler in a horizontal position just like you see here. Now, if you have one of the handouts, the handout is going to ask you, it's going to tell you that to begin this project, draw a horizontal line just below the middle of the paper. Make sure your paper is in a horizontal position. Place a dot in the middle of the line you've drawn, which is this line here, and this is going to become your vanishing point. So for step one, what you want to do, I've got my ruler, it's roughly in the middle of the paper, but I'm going to go a little bit below the middle of the paper just for a better visual result in the end. And I'm going to take my pencil. Notice how I hold my ruler in the middle. I'm holding on to the ruler in the middle. Sometimes if I hold, you might find it if you hold on to the ruler on one side, and if you draw a line, your ruler, by the time you come over here, it might shift on you. So there are some good practices and good habits you might want to get yourself into when it comes to holding the ruler. Now I'm a little bit below the middle, and I'm going to draw a horizontal line. My horizontal line is there. It's not real dark. Sometimes, well, actually, as we progress through the drawing, there will be times that you'll need to erase away parts of the line, but you'll see that in a moment. Now, the vanishing point, you're going to put that right in the center of that line that you've drawn, the horizontal line, and the VP stands for vanishing point. Now, you don't need to write this, but you do need to have this dot. Now, in the handout that you may see at some point, if you don't have it now, they're going to become available for you later. It's going to ask that you draw a line from the side, the lower side of your paper, about 2 fingers up from the bottom. And we're going to draw that line from the side of the paper to your vanishing point like you see here. So here we go. You're going to take your 2 fingers, right? And you're coming in from the lower side of the paper for a better result. Don't come from the bottom. Don't come from the bottom. Come from the sides. That's the way to go. All right? And I'm going to draw on the line. Now, one end of my ruler is going to be on the vanishing point. The other end of the ruler is going to be on that lower side. And I'm going to draw myself a line just like you see here. All right? Same deal on the other side. Draw yourself a line, and when we do this, automatically we're going to get something that suggests a road going into the distance. But we can't really tell that it's a road yet because we haven't added in the kind of details, the visual details, that many of us would see on a real road. So let's get that started. Now, most of the times whenever I see a road in a city, I often see a sidewalk. And how you draw the sidewalk is going to become one of the criterias of measurement to see if you understand how to draw a one-point perspective. So here we have the side of the curb, which is a very narrow line, and of course the top of the sidewalk where people will, walk on. The bold line that you see in the handout, if you have one of these handouts, the bold line represents the line that you just drew, which is this line here. So here we go. I'm going to draw in the curb, and once again, here's a little helpful hint. If you place your pencil onto the vanishing point, you'll notice that your ruler can sort of lock on to the vanishing point, and I can turn my ruler, because with this project, you're going to pivot the ruler off of the vanishing point many times throughout the progression of it. And we're going to draw what will become the side of the curb. Then I'm going to place my pencil back onto that point again, turn my ruler, and this is going to become the side of the sidewalk, or the part of the sidewalk where we'll walk on. So you're going to repeat that same action on the opposite side of your drawing paper. Here we go. And I'm going to place my pencil on the vanishing point. Draw another line as shown. There we are. So you should have something that kind of looks like this, and of course in your handout you can see it's very similar. Now, for the next part, what I would like for you to do is to create the parts of the sidewalk that really make it look like it's going into the distance. Here is what I want to see you do. For the breaks in the sidewalk, they need to be horizontal. Do you see my pencil as it's compared to the horizontal line that you drew? That's the way that the horizontal lines should be drawn. The breaks of the sidewalk, that's the way they should be drawn on the sidewalk. Do not draw breaks on the sidewalk that are tilted or slanted, because that is the wrong way to do it. Now here I have an illustration that I've made up, and in this illustration, this is the way that the lines in the sidewalk should appear, because that's the way that they would look in real life. If you draw lines in the sidewalk that look like this is wrong. This is not how they should appear in life. That's not how it works. And if you draw lines that are tilted, that's telling me that you still don't know what you're doing, and you're not going to get the points on the grade slip. The grade slip that you get is going to ask you if you drew the breaks in the sidewalk. Now here I have a copy of the grade slip, and in this area right here, and I'm going to try to hold this up to the camera, it's going to ask you, did you draw the breaks on the sidewalk parallel to the horizontal line? Do the separations between the horizontal breaks and your sidewalk get closer as they merge to the vanishing point? It's going to be worth 20 points. So this is what I'm looking for, just so that you know what you need to include to get the points. So your sidewalk and the breaks in the sidewalk, here's what we're going to do. To make sure that you have those breaks in the sidewalk parallel to the horizon line, I'm going to draw myself a little horizontal line for the top of the sidewalk, and then I'm going to draw a vertical line for the side of the curb. And looking at the horizontal line, keep your ruler parallel to the horizon line, and I'm going to draw another break. And each break, as I get closer to the bottom of where the sidewalk goes off the side of your paper, these breaks in the sidewalk will get further apart as it gets closer to the viewer's eye. This is going to create that illusion of distance, because when things are in the distance, they're often smaller and they're less clear to see. So I'm going to put my pencil, hold onto the line, make sure that your ruler is parallel to that first horizontal line that you drew, and draw yourself a break in the sidewalk just like you see here. Make yourself a vertical line, and you can compare your vertical lines to the edge of your paper, and that's how you can see if your lines are a little bit crooked or not. You know what I mean? Now, here we go. I'm going to draw myself another horizontal line here and here, and I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to draw, now get right on that right line. There we go. Here's another, and go down the sidewalk just as you see here, all right? There's another, and another, all right. There. Now we have a sidewalk where the breaks of the sidewalk, especially the top of the sidewalk, the breaks in the sidewalk are parallel to the horizon line. Now, to really emphasize that illusion of depth, what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my pencil onto the vanishing point just like you see here. And do you see how I have my ruler lined up where the curb is? And I'm going to shade in the side of the sidewalk just a tiny bit with a series of little lines. Now what's happening is this, I'm using my ruler as masking, and it's going to stop the shading process, which I'm giving it now. And what will happen is these sketched in vertical lines will create a visual sense of height of the sidewalk or the curb. And when I take the ruler away, it's going to look like a shadow, and it will make the illusion of height on the sidewalk. Do you see that? Let's do the same thing on the other side. And it doesn't take long. It's a nice little trick, and it really creates that illusion of depth and height. And I can do this fairly quickly. I can afford to be a little sloppy because my ruler is controlling the shading. And that ruler is right on the vanishing point like you see here, okay? Now, I'm also going to include a road divider in the middle so that the road divider, it looks like it's going down the street. And what I did was I drew a very, very light line right down the middle. Parts of this line I'm going to erase. What I want you to see are where my two fingers are, and on the bottom of your paper, you're going to draw two lines, and I don't know if you can see that. Let me see if I can move my camera a little bit here so that you can see that. There are two lines on the bottom of the paper here, and the width of these lines will become the width of the road divider. And each line is going to be drawn from here to the vanishing point, from the bottom to the top. So just watch me as I do it. Here we go. Here I have one end of my ruler on the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw myself a guide. Guidelines are lines that we draw, and sometimes parts of the guidelines we erase to get the right angles as they merge to the vanishing point. Now, here I've got myself two angled lines that are going to the vanishing point, but now I'm going to switch over with my ruler, and I'm going to have my ruler in a horizontal position parallel to the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw myself a horizontal line. Now, most road dividers, many road dividers that we see, they have a little break in between each of the dotted lines. So I'm going to make that little break, well, like you see here, and I'm going to erase away the parts of the guidelines that I don't need. Because if you have too many guidelines in your drawing, it can be a little bit confusing. And what I'm going to do is draw myself another horizontal line, and the breaks between the dotted lines as they merge towards the vanishing point, they are going to get a little bit smaller too. And I can run that right on up the top. And as you can see, what I get are these increments of lines which become the road divider. And clean up your lines after you're done so that it's easy to see, so that you don't get confused. And what you can do at this point is you can, if you've got something there, you can sort of tidy it up a little bit so that you can see it. I find that the divider lines that are in the roads, they're painted on the street. And with cars riding over the lines, the painted lines all the time, those lines get a little bit faded. So if you were to just freehand draw a little bit this part after you've got your lines drawn in as they merge to the vanishing point, it actually takes on a little bit more of a realistic likeness if your road divider lines seem a little bit faded. All right, now this is just a artist trick here that I'm sharing with you. You don't have to do that, but as you can see, here we got a road divider now, and we got our sidewalk. So if you have something that looks like this, and I'm going to give you a moment to catch up, go ahead and draw it.